Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 122 Crunch Time. I am your host today, Sam Godsey, and with me today, as always, is my co-host, Tanner Dislin. Tanner, how are we feeling tonight on this Super Tuesday?
Man, I am itching to get to 2 weeks from now. I feel like we should have on that wall right above your head right there, like a countdown to Selection Sunday. We are oh so close, but we're in the worst part right now, I think, because conference tournaments are obviously closer than March. They're literally next week. We have a full week of the last games, so some seeds have already been locked up. Some games don't mean as much as others before we get into the conference tournament. So like we are just so close, and everyone, get your rest now because in the words of John Rothstein, we sleep in May because March Madness is coming, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's the best time of the year. Y'all know that. We know. We all know it. We're going to talk about a lot today. We're going to talk some college ball. We're going to talk some NFL with the draft combine last week and so much more on episode 122 of Crunch Time. But let's kick it off as we always do. Winners and losers. Tanner, who's your winner?
Yeah, man. So, well, yes, college basketball is the talk of the town. It is what is on the horizon. I'm going to bring us to a different sport that's starting up soon for both my winner and my loser, and that's going to be on the ball diamond. And my winner is going to be Pittsburgh Pirates rookies, and they're specifically first round draft picks, Sam, because we are underway in spring training, and it's a great way to see what a lot of teams have in their young talent. And the Pirates have had two number one overall draft picks in the past 3 years. One of which just last year, Paul Skeens, the pitcher from LSU. In his spring debut, I mean, right, he was drafted last year. So far, he's only thrown 3 innings, which is a small sample size, and all he has given up is one solo shot. His stuff has been incredibly impressive. A low whip. I mean, other than the solo shot, he's only giving up one base runner per inning pitched. He's consistently hitting 102 plus. Absolute fireballer with that arm, and only coming from a 21-year-old, six, I mean, 6'6", 230, like just an absolute beast. Hitting high speeds on the gun, looking good in spring training. It seems like he's going to be a pretty damn good pitcher for Pittsburgh in the future. So he's one of them, and the other one was the first round draft pick a couple years ago, 2021, and that's Henry Davis, who went to Fox Lane High School in Bedford, New York, and may or may not have played against him in high school. Yours truly did beat him once actually, but I mean this kid's the real deal. So far, he made his MLB debut last year in 2023, and he came up. He did pretty well. I mean, he hit 213, 7 bombs, 24 ribbies, and he had a 653 OPS. So for a rookie, that's fine. But in spring training thus far, he's hitting 400, 6 for 15, and of those 6 hits, 3 have been home runs. So he's hitting 400, an on base of 444, and an OPS of 1.44. So he has a 1400 OPS, 3 bombs. He's hitting the hell out of the ball right now. And then you got Skeens over there hitting 100 on the gun multiple times, striking people out. Again, only giving up that one solo shot. It looks like Pittsburgh might have some young prospects that'll move up the ranks and make some noise over in the NL Central. So Pittsburgh, man, got to shout him out.
Yeah, the impressive numbers by those guys. It seems um, most of the time you don't have guys, at least in my opinion, you don't have guys that kind of hop in and are playing well in the majors. Usually they spend a couple years minors, kind of working their way up, but these guys seem MLB ready, especially Paul Skeens. I saw his highlights, absolutely impressive.
Fireballer, man.
Yeah, absolutely. For my winner, the man everyone loves has officially hung it up. Of course, I'm talking Jason Kelce, announced yesterday, Monday morning, or Monday afternoon, he has officially retired after 13 seasons with one team. That's unheard of, that being the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, he's a legend, 7 times Pro Bowler, 6-time first team All Pro, will go down as one of the greatest centers in the NFL history. Yeah, he's done everything he could on the field and even off the field. We all know his shenanigans off the field, but what a legendary career by Jason Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it, legend. I mean, all his whole career with one team, like you said. And I mean, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Yeah, it helps having Jalen Hurts who can squat a million pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But that play doesn't do anything if the center doesn't get some pretty impressive push. And Jason Kelce continuously did that. Yeah, one of the greatest centers of all time, as you said. First ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. Super Bowl champion. There isn't much that he didn't do in his career. So, yeah, shout out to Jason Kelce. And I'll definitely be happy to not see him with the Eagles. Maybe their offensive line
You and
will
me
not be as
both.
good this year. But yeah, hopefully he enjoys his retirement. Keep with the podcasting game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's bound to be, whether it's an analyst or announcer. I think he is bound for that. He has a personality. Um, did you know he was a walk-on running back at Cincy? I literally found that out yesterday. Absolutely insane.
Change to something, but like adjacent, where it's like a quarterback. He's more athletic. You move him to running back, or you move him to cornerback, right, or wide receiver. Bro went from running back to center.
Yeah.
One of the greatest of all time to do it at that position. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's go on the other side of things. Tanner, who is your loser?
Yeah, so I mentioned I was sticking on the baseball field. My loser of the episode is going to be Scott Boras. Sam, you know Scott Boras?
No idea.
He is an agent in the MLB right now. He's infamous for being, whenever your team wants to re-sign a guy and you look like, who's his agent? Scott Boras. You're like, dang, because he's known as one of the best to ever do it. He's highly sought after. He's a tough negotiator, and all of that can be true. However, it seems like year after year after year, all of his clients are still unsigned at the time of spring training. And so far this year, there are some notable ones that for the longest time were unsigned. He did have 2 signed recently. One of his main clients was Cody Bellinger this offseason, who did get his deal from the Cubs. However, it was a much smaller deal than I think a lot of people were expecting. Maybe there was some less interest from outside other teams other than the Cubs in Bellinger. And then Matt Chapman just signed as well, like literally 2 days ago with the Giants. So he does have 2 off the board, but literally like a week ago, he had 4 major clients unsigned when the season started later this month. Not good stuff. And the two of his main clients that still remain unsigned are Blake Snell, who won the Cy Young last year, and Jordan Montgomery, who was one of the main pitchers for the Rangers as they went on to win their World Series. So, but this has been a recurring trend for Boras, going all the way back to like Bryce Harper, when Bryce Harper signed pretty late in the offseason, and Manny Machado did the same thing that offseason, and a lot of baseball fans, I mean myself included, are ones that think kind of his philosophy and his unwillingness to budge and how he handles himself is one of the main reasons for continuously slow off seasons. And it kind of sucks because any fan of any sport loves the off season. They love hearing rumors. They love hearing people sign. And because of Boras, I mean, it's so slow. And baseball fans are kind of fed up. And, I mean, obviously you want players to get their money, but it's getting a little ridiculous at this point. And even regarding some of his still unsigned clients, Blake Snell, again, coming off of his 2nd Cy Young award. That should be like the easiest sell of all time. But so far, he's only received 1 offer from the Yankees, and it was a six-year, $150 million offer. Seems pretty reasonable to about everybody. Um, According to this article, it was considered to be a very solid offer, but this was dismissed as out of hand by Boras, and Boras and Snell countered with 9 years for $270 million. Believe it or not, the Yankees did not like that offer, and I mean I don't blame them. So the cockiness, the unwillingness to negotiate for a fair offer. I mean, 9 years, 270 is absolutely outright ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's and that's what we're looking at. It's just getting ridiculous how late in the season his free agents are signing, and it's contributing to really, really boring offseason in the MLB. So that sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely sucks. For my loser, I'm gonna go with kind of the biggest news coming from the college football realm, obviously being off season pretty slow. But we had our first opt out of the new college football game, Tanner. Arch Manning opted out of being in the new college football game, set to release later this year. And his reason was peculiar. He said he wanted to focus on his field play.
I saw something that said like it was someone it's the gif of the two people on the computer and they're like
Yeah.
and it was like Arch Manning when he finds out that when being in a video game doesn't mean you stop playing actual football. Like what does that even mean?
Yeah, I have no idea. Weird. I mean, I know previous players in the past couple of weeks are like, damn, I wish I could have had this opportunity. Like, it's one thing I thought about growing up playing football, being a high level recruit. I know Johnny Manziel it was one of those, and he says he hopes he's part of the ultimate team, but it's just crazy. Like a free $600.
I just can't.
I don't like. Why would you say no?
In do you have to spend like a lot of time with like the motion track on your leg? That kind of game? Like, cause I can totally see, you know, how Madden does, where or I guess 2K would be a good example of where like you can choose your shot, and it's when you create a player, you can choose a shot, and it tracks them. And I think that 2K has like new players sign up for like a motion capture where they catch, your release and your.
Yeah, so Madden does do that, but it's like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. So it's the big stars, but I mean they can. I assume they have the technology where they can take game film and insert it in a football game. But
how long would that take, honestly?
Yeah.
And then if not long, which is our assumption, or they might not even do that. Like I can think of the old, NCAA football games. Granted, I think these will be higher quality, but the old ones, I could tell you for certain. Yeah, hopefully, I can tell you for certain they did not do motion capture.
Yeah.
And they just took
everyone through. Yep.
Yeah. Which is like, is it so much that he's so focused on the field and his play next season? He's not even the starting quarterback, by the way. And that he can't take the 2 seconds to sign the contract.
Yeah.
Or he can't take the day to go to the studio and do the motion capture. It makes no sense. Not to mention the reward you get for signing up, as you said, some money, a copy of the game.
Weird. It doesn't surprise me it's him to be the first one. I think over 10,000 players have opted in. That's 87% of what they expected, and it was announced, 3 weeks ago. So I expect that number to increase, but absolutely loser talk.
Say, hey, do you want to be in this game? Is he like, no, I don't want to be trapped in a game. Like, what? Stupid. Like, is he dumb? I don't get it. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's wild. But that wraps it up for winners and losers. We're going to kind of follow the same format, doing the headlines segment of the show. Of course, the first one, the big one, especially for us on this podcast on Sunday against number 2 at the time, Ohio State. The GOAT, Caitlin Clark, broke the all-time NCAA scoring record for both with Pistol Pete Maravich's. She now has 3,685 career points, finished with 35 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds in a 93-83 victory over, like I said, Ohio State. So I think to truly capture how crazy her season has been, I'm just going to go over what has happened this year, saying several records. So on December 6th, she hit the 3,000 point mark against Iowa State. February 11th, she reached the 1,000 assist mark, making her the first Division I women's player to have both 3,000 points and 1,000 assists. 4 days later, Clark passed Washington's Kelce Plume for the NCAA women's scoring record with a 49-point performance that also set Iowa's single-game scoring record. A couple weeks later, on February 28th at Minnesota, Caitlin Clark passed Kansas's Lynette Woodard for the major college women's scoring record with a 33-point performance that was part of her 17th career triple-double. The reason that is kind of a separate record from Kelce Plume is because Lynette Woodard played just before the NCAA era where women's sports were governed by the NCAA. She scored 3,649 points, but she was in the attendance when Caitlin Clark broke the record. And also in that victory over the Gophers, Caitlin Clark hit 8 3-pointers, giving her 156 for the season, another Division I record. Clark's 6 triple-doubles with at least 30 points are also the most in Division I history. I know she is tied Steph Curry for the most 3-pointers in a season. She will break that. I think it's 162 right now. But Tanner, my kind of first question is, we see a lot of people kind of bashing how great she is, and especially with this Pete Maravich record being broken. Kind of give me your thoughts on just like why. Why do people downplay such a amazing accomplishment that hasn't been done in 50 plus years?
Simply put, people hate greatness. I mean, like, specifically in basketball, I don't know why basketball culture is so toxic, right? Because it's not only in basketball, but it's worst in basketball. Because, like, if we look at football, right? Nobody really has the argument whether Tom Brady's the GOAT, right? He's the clear GOAT. Now, maybe you'll get a few people who will come out here and say, "Oh, he had good defenses. Oh, he was a Belichick merchant, whatever."
Yeah.
Very rarely do you. But in basketball, when we see continued greatness, LeBron James could tie his shoe, and half the internet will be talking about how their GOAT ties their shoe better.
Yeah.
And that he's not their true GOAT. And Caitlin Clark, undisputed greatness. But yeah, one person who gets paid to talk about college basketball saying she's not great. One person making up stuff about how this is her 5th year and how she shoots 40 times a game. No, that was actually Pistol Pete.
Yeah.
40 times a game, right? Specifically, Kim Mulkey. I mean, we talk about all these people continuously tear her down. Kim Mulkey. She made that ill-advised comment earlier in the year. I believe she was a loser on the show when she said it.
Sure.
About how players on our team don't shoot 40 times per game. That's just not how we are. A clear shot at Caitlin Clark. But then, obviously, Pistol Pete, an LSU guy, she coaches at LSU. After Caitlin Clark breaks the record, she, of course, tries to dance around it. She's like, "Oh, of course Caitlin's great, but, like, I don't look at it that way." whatever the hell that means. But she talks about how great Pistol Pete was. Guess what? He shot 38 times per game
Yeah.
throughout the course of his career. So for her, it was a problem. When it's not even when she shoots. I have the stats up here. She averages in her career 19.9 field goal attempts per game. So not even 20, right? Less than half of what you said. Pistol Pete averages 38, right?
Yeah.
For her, it was too much. For him, it was just good ball.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Make that make sense. You got one guy saying she's not great because she hasn't won a championship. She goes to Iowa, brother. Iowa. I believe we talked about this last podcast.
Yeah.
Whenever we talked about his comments. Like, she could go to UConn. That's fine. Why does she mean so much? Because she's from Iowa and she stayed at Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, how many great athletes are from the state of Iowa? There are a few I can think of. One that immediately comes to mind, Harrison Barnes. What did he do? He took his shot to play somewhere else. Fine. More power to him. I get it. Anytime Carolina comes calling, you go play for him. But she didn't do that. She didn't go to UConn. She didn't go to South Carolina. She stayed home and brought a team that, simply put, is a bad basketball team. Last year, they were better, but still not a good basketball team, and she dragged them on her back to the national title game. That is why she means so much. I'm so sick and tired of the BS, of people hating greatness. Oh, she can't do this. Oh, she can't do that. Yes, she can. She has done it. She's done it in less shots than Pistol Pete. I don't care that he played for 3 years. I don't care how many years anybody plays. The person who does it in less shots with higher efficiency is more impressive. I don't care what you say. And that was Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back, kind of diving a little deeper into Caitlin versus Pete Maravich argument. This guy, shout out Rob Sand IA on Twitter. Someone commented, Pete did it without a 3-point line and a heart condition left him disabled. I wish people knew this. This record needs multiple asterisks. Rob Sand goes, nope. Numbers show Caitlin is greater than Pete. Shots per game, you mentioned it, 38 to 20. Field goal percentage, Pete had 43.8%. Caitlin 46.5. Games played, Pete had 83. Caitlin had 130. Caitlin's threes made 509. Absolutely incredible. But even so, he said without those 509 three-pointers, assume 38 field goals for 83 games. So he did the math. Still came out 3,852.7 points.
Yeah, at her efficiency.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And another thing, if it's so easy, why haven't we seen other people do it?
Yeah. It's not all she does is flop. All she does is flop, and she shoots 20 times per game. Okay. Yeah. How come Maya Moore didn't break it?
Yeah.
How come Brianna Stewart didn't break it?
Yeah. It's interesting. But that was her senior night. We had some legends in the building. We had Travis Scott. We had Maya Moore. We had Lynette Woodard. We even had Jake from State Farm. Travis Scott.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Mic down.
Mic down.
But one last thing I wanted to say while he fixes his mic over there. Lastly, I hate to put on the tinfoil hat, but it just all of these big personalities in college basketball that come from the blue blood programs. Jay Billis, Duke. Jay Williams, Duke. Your like your Cheryl Swoops. I don't even know where she is. Probably UConn shit. But like any of these that come from the big time programs, they want their programs to remain big time. And in order for that status quo to continue, what needs to happen? The best talent needs to.
She went to Texas Tech. Cheryl Swoops.
Oh, okay. Whatever. But in order for their programs to stay on top, they need the best talent to go there. So when Caitlin Clark is showing you that you can stay home, you can go to a not blue blood school, and you can still capture the eyes of the entire nation. You can still earn yourself as the best player in the sport. You can still get high-quality coaching, and solidify yourself as a top prospect at the next level, and you can still make millions and millions of dollars off of your name, image, and likeness by going to a smaller school. They don't like that very much. They want to make sure their school is still in the position to get the best talent. And I think that might have something to do with it, honestly. They can't handle the fact that a smaller school compared to the Blue Bloods can bring in a talent, can market her correctly, can have a team go to the finals, and can compete with their big-time schools. And they're losing control over the talent pool, and it's frightening them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a new era of basketball. But back to what I was saying, had a bunch of legends. Shout out Travis Scott. He was absolutely box office, getting involved with all the chants, getting absolutely lit, yelling the entire time. It wasn't a typical celebrity sighting at a basketball game. He was involved. He was cheering loud. Shout out you, Travis Scott. But with it being her senior day, she earlier in the week she declared for the WNBA, basically, let's put it, locking her at the Indiana Fever with the number 1 pick. Are you surprised by this? For her declaring, kind of give me your thoughts on her declaring for the WNBA and being a lock at number 1.
No, I wasn't surprised by it, and different people are motivated by different things. But first off, we need to get this out of the way. Caitlin Clark has taken $0.00, none, nada, zero, out of the University of Iowa Swarm Collective. She gets paid $0 from the University of Iowa. She gets paid 100% of her net worth by State Farm, IV, Gatorade, all the schools that sponsor her. So anyone, Darren Ravel, who say that Caitlin Clark took a pay cut by going to the WNBA is hilariously incorrect.
Yeah.
Because again, she will lose. When you move on to the next level, you lose all the money coming from your NIL collective.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark is
$0.
$0. Same amount from the University of Wisconsin. Caitlin Clark is. So she is not taking a pay cut.
Yeah.
She's getting a pay raise because she will be getting paid by the WNBA now, in addition to State Farm, in addition to Hy-Vee, in addition to Gatorade. So people need to get that through their mind. She's not taking a pay cut. So when everyone's wondering why she did that, she didn't. She also has said from the very beginning that it was her dream to play in the WNBA. And with the state of the WNBA, I understand that some players, that's not their dream, and that's fine. For hers, it was. And she always wanted to pursue that dream. So she obviously gets to do what she wants to do. She wanted to pursue that dream. So I'm not surprised by it. It's awesome that she is. I mean, it sucks and it's awesome all at the same time. It's awesome that the greatest Hawkeye in the history of the greatest Hawkeye student athlete in the history of the university gets to follow her dreams at the next level. It sucks that she will no longer be an Iowa Hawkeye. It is what it is. She owes this university nothing. She has given it everything she has 10 times over, and I don't know what else to say other than no, I'm not surprised. It sucks, but it's awesome all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the people that basically said, oh, her popularity is gonna decrease when she enters the WNBA. The Indiana Fever season tickets are sold out.
Yeah. By the way, we do need give big time credit where credit's due. The Indiana Fever social media account.
Bravo.
Nailed it. Literally the instant the news about Caitlin Clark declaring for the draft went public, they had about 4 tweets just like.
Yeah.
I think that their very next tweet after that was promoting their season tickets.
Yeah, within an hour, they tweeted, "We're simply just reminding you that there are only 46 days until the draft." And that
tweet also had a graphic with in huge letters just said number
one pick, yeah. And then hop on board with like the little devil emoji with the evil face, and it was a link to their 2024 tickets. But she's not bashing the WNBA, but there's going to be like major networks putting Indiana Fever games on just due to Caitlin Clark, what she's done for women's basketball as a whole, whether it's WNBA college, even youth women's basketball. There's no denying her impact on the game. But Tanner, you kind of mentioned it already, but she's I have a feeling I know where you're going to put her in this, but give me your top 5 greatest Hawkeyes of all time.
Ooh, no, see, we didn't talk about this. All right, I like it. A little rude, but I like it. Number 1 is without a doubt Caitlin Clark. She has no Hawkeyes ever been talked about as much, marketed as much, and simply put, for as long as I've been alive, and I think, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but since like every American over 18 has been allowed to vote, since the legislation that gave everyone the right to vote, I don't think an Iowa team has been in a national championship.
Yeah,
Have that? I
I
mean,
don't think so.
any national championships claimed by the football team. I don't even. There was no championship game.
Yeah.
So just, like they weren't even in a championship. Maybe they claimed it, but they weren't in a championship.
Yeah.
And Caitlin Clark did that basically by herself. So she's absolutely number 1. Wow. Number 2. I honestly think the closest Hawkeye we've gotten to Caitlin Clark was actually Luka Garza. He's the one who's been talked about probably the second most when he was doing his thing. So I'm gonna go with Garza at 2. At number 3, in terms of greatness, this person probably deserves to be higher, but the problem is the sport just wasn't marketed as much, and that's going to be Spencer Lee. I mean, the dude was absolutely dominant. It's unfortunate that wrestling isn't marketed as much as basketball, but it is what it is. So yeah, Spencer Lee, I'll go with 3. Oh man, it's hard to go with guys that didn't play in our lifetime. Because like it's really tough to make those calls. But I think at number 4, I've got to go with. I'm probably going to go with Dallas Clark. I think he's probably the greatest and the most noteworthy Iowa football alumni. And yeah, I'm playing with Peyton Manning probably helped.
Yeah.
Being one of the better tight ends. Key contributor to championship teams. At Dallas Clark at 4. 5 is really tough. I'm debating between 2 people. You know what? I'm going to go with Chuck Long at 5. It's unfortunate that we weren't alive during when he played. It was between him and Keegan Murray. I think what did Keegan, it was part of Keegan Murray's downfall was the loss to Richmond. His legacy would have been a lot bigger if that team was able to do something in March, but they weren't. So I'm going to go with Chuck Long, and that's my way too quick. Haven't thought about it until 30 seconds ago. Top 5.
Yeah. For me, Caitlin Clark, number 1, easy. We actually have top 3. I just have a little different order. Despite it not being as marketed, I still think Spencer Lee is the greatest, or one of the greatest to ever do it in his sport. That's why I have him at 2. Luka Garza at 3. And this is where we differ just a little bit. Obviously, like we said, there's been some greats before our time, and this is one of them. I'm going to go with Brad Banks for Iowa football. Was a runner-up in Heisman, was a hell of a quarterback. And then number 4, there's
Was Brad Banks 4 or 5?
Brad Banks was 4. And then number 5, I was debating a couple guys. you brought up some I didn't even think of, which should be shameful for me. Um, I mean, there's so many football players that keep popping up. I mean, uh, countless, but just for kind of what he did for the program and what happened after his time at Iowa, I think I'm gonna slide him at 5. Keegan Murray. I know he kind of had that hiccup, but he was a number 4 draft pick for a reason. But that's kind of my 5. I mean, I think Cooper DeJean can definitely hop up there at some point within the next 10 years. Um, depending on what it's so weird. Like you think George Kittle is probably the most, I'd say right now, the most recognizable Hawkeye in the NFL, at least.
Yeah. Said to an NFL fan, name a player who went to Iowa. It would probably, I mean, it's certainly a tight end. It'd probably be George Kittle.
Yeah, which he wasn't.
I mean, he was good.
He was good, but he wasn't like. I mean, no. Let's be honest. Noah Fant was the guy when Hawkinson, Kittle, and him were there, right?
I think
Kittle might have been a year before, but
and Fant were there together. Fant was the better
yeah,
for sure. Hawkinson probably has had the better career in the NFL. But Kittle, like, he was definitely the best tight end on the team. He was a reliable target.
yeah.
Fant and Hawkinson were also first round draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Kittle was like third or fourth.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, so the hype wasn't very high coming out of college, so that probably plays some, into it a little bit.
Yeah, but yeah, that's just interesting. I think it's clear. The 3, jeez. Yeah, so I mean, B.J. Armstrong's another guy on the basketball. They're.
I mean, even another one like Megan Gustafson. She
was a dog.
She was an absolute dog.
I'm sure there's countless. I mean, I know there's hella gold medalists from the wrestling program. It's just there's so many. Unfortunately, not a lot in our time, but being the age we are, we gotta go with these guys. But any last thoughts on the accomplishments, Caitlin Clark and her career as an Iowa Hawkeye?
I mean, there's nothing left to say that hasn't already been said by us, by everyone in the media, the ones that actually still appreciate greatness. What they say, and not the ones trying to tear down someone who is, clearly the best player in the game right now. And yeah, I can't. I mean, you've seen some of the billboards that are around Iowa City. Shout out Nike. Nike, by the way.
Nike killed it.
Absolutely murdered.
Nike killed it.
That campaign with the you break it, you own it. This was never a long shot. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And
yeah.
as soon as she broke it,
the banner of
the city, like they had people ready to go to
yeah,
hang them, like,
very cool.
Unbelievably well done by Nike. And it's just it's hard to believe any future Hawkeye athlete meaning more to the university, to their program, to the game that they play in, more than Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball, Iowa, all of it. It's really tough to imagine.
Absolutely.
But also worth noting, the last 7 Big Ten Women's Player of the Years, 6 of them are Hawkeyes.
Right.
Gustafson went back-to-back in 18 and 19. Kathleen Doyle in 20. Then 21 was the non-Hawkeye. It was Naz Hellman from Michigan. And then the next 3 were Caitlin Clark. So 6 of the last 7.
Yeah, not bad. But March, baby, you know what we got to talk about. The NCAA conference tournament play is right around the corner. So let's talk about, we're going to make some predictions. Let's kick it off. We're going to do the Power 6, Power 5, 6, minus Pac-12. Because that's kind of a gimme. Wow, me too. That's
Wow.
crazy. So we're gonna talk about ACC, Big 12, Big East, Big 10, and SEC. Yeah, let's. You know what? It's good. It's good. It's going on the graphic.
Arizona.
Wow, we're crazy. But let's kick off with the ACC. We got the baby himself, Kyle Filipowski, and the Duke Blue Devils. We got North Carolina. It seems those two guys are the favorites in this tournament, but you got a shocker here. Where are you looking?
Uh, First off, I think we should have an honorary winner of the episode for Kyle Filipowski for
Oh,
the incredible
absolutely,
turnaround from
dude.
not being sure if he's going to play basketball again, not sure if he's going to be able to walk again,
It's incredible.
to doing uh,
There's gonna be a 30 for 30 about him
between
one
the
day.
legs dunks.
Yeah,
But
Mar Hamlin and Alex Smith, who man?
yeah, right,
It
move
is,
aside.
yeah.
But the answer, I mean, as you said, Sam, two teams have solidified themselves as the best in the ACC. It's a real shame. It's a down year for the other teams in the ACC, like Virginia, Florida State, sometimes even Clemson, Pitt. They can put together some teams that can make noise. Not this year. It's a two-team race, barring a crazy upset. Which, I mean, the third place team in the ACC right now is Virginia. I will be shocked if Virginia wins this. They just don't have the offensive firepower. So yeah, barring one of those crazy upsets, like remember a few years ago when Virginia Tech went ahead and won the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
Barring one of those, which are incredibly hard to predict.
Called one.
He did call that one.
It was the only one. It's the only one I got that year, but
I have picked those like after it started, so they were already gaining steam. But you nailed it.
damn,
You did nail it. Dude,
downplaying the greatness.
what you say? Play great.
Yeah.
But back to the two-team race, Duke, North Carolina. These teams matched up once already. North Carolina took that at home. They have another matchup at Cameron Indoor. But I think Carolina is the more experienced, better team. So I'm going to go with the Heat to win the ACC.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I'm gonna go an upset here. I haven't really loved what I've seen from UNC and Duke. I think they are very beatable. And honestly, when it comes to March, it's just who gets hot. And I think this team has one of the most underrated basketball players. Might be a little biased here, but I'm gonna go Wake Forest. Hunter Solis is the most underrated player in college basketball, going absolutely crazy as of late. They're fighting to get into the big dance, and a deep run in the ACC would do wonders for this team's chances to go to the big dance. Shall we move on?
I think we can.
Let's move on to, by far, hands down, no arguments, the best basketball conference this year, the Big 12. An absolute gauntlet the entire season. Once it gets to regular season, who you got coming out of here?
Yeah, see, this is another. I mean, obviously, this is a tough one because it is the best conference in college basketball. Just to put some context here, the number one preseason number one team was Kansas. They took out UConn earlier in the year. This team looked like a buzzsaw. Yeah, they're fifth in the conference. They're 9-7 in their conference record. But of all the teams in the Big 12, I'm going to throw up in my mouth a little bit saying it. Defense travels, my friend. And Iowa State plays some of the best defense in the country. And the favorite in the Big 12 is going to be Houston, obviously, the number one team in the nation right now. These teams Iowa State and Houston have matched up twice. They split, and the home team won both times. Both teams have been very impressive this year, but I think in the rubber match, Iowa State has the advantage because, I mean, Clemson simply put, I mean, it's hard for me to say this when the other team I'm talking about is Iowa State, and they also don't lose at home. Houston is another team that just doesn't lose at home. And I think Iowa State, to me, was the more impressive team. If you look at how Houston played on the road in Ames and then how Iowa State played on the road at Houston, I think Iowa State was a more impressive team on the road. So I'm going to go with the Cyclones to win it. It's disgusting. I know. I'm sorry. But I just go with the Cyclones.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I've watched a lot of Big 12 this season. I actually really love Houston. Um, but they got some big news. JoJo Tugler, their kind of backup big man, went down this past week, out for season. That's a bigger loss than people are realizing. I'm gonna throw up two. Give me the Cyclones,
Yeah.
man. I love what they're doing. We have seen them been able to score and they kill teams, but when they're not, I mean, what game was a couple games ago, they were shooting 14% from the field and they still end up winning with shooting 28%. Just absolutely incredible. Uh
Some of the best defense in the country.
like you said, it was against Oklahoma, who was at the time, uh, or previously in the season, they were ranked top 25, and they end up beating them 58 to 45. Both teams shot like crap, but holding a team to 45 is ridiculous. Um,
Team that's not Virginia 45.
this is true.
It's like Virginia
But
45
like you
can't
said,
win.
defense travels. I think we've kind of always known the Cyclones for their defense. I think TJ Altsberger has done a great job up in names. But this year they have offensive weapons. Milan Momcilovic is one of the best freshmen in that tough conference. Uh, bringing in transfers, Curtis Jones up there for sixth man of the year. Keyshawn Gilbert, they are loaded. Taman Lipsey being their kind of glue to keep that team going. But I like Iowa State to come out of the Big 12. But I could see anyone winning that conference because like we said, it's an absolute gauntlet.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a team to watch out for, that's not your Baylor, Houston, Iowa State. Granted, this team is in the top five in the conference, so I don't know if you want to call it a sleeper, but
Yeah,
I think compare quality of program, I think they definitely qualify as a sleeper. But look out for BYU.
yeah,
This team can play. On their resume, they beat Kansas in Kansas. They have a win over Baylor. Um, a great win over a UCF team right now that's playing great basketball.
yeah,
They got a good resume. This
yeah,
team can play, and don't sleep on BYU. And
yeah.
don't be surprised if they want to keep running this.
Yeah, and they got a big game. Obviously, the game will be done by the time this gets released, but they got a huge game against Iowa State on Wednesday night. But let's move on to the Big East, Tanner. This has been a battle of three teams. We got UConn, Creighton, and Marquette. Who you got coming out?
This back to in my opinion, and there is no chance in hell I'm going against UConn. They have dominated this conference for the longest time over the past 2 years, and I don't see this playing out any different. This is UConn's to lose, and I don't think they will. I think their loss at Creighton was the exact splash of cold water in their face they needed because they were cruising through on neutral. Basically
Yeah,
how they were playing. So they needed that wake up call. And remember, Bobby Hurley after that, he tweeted Danny Hurley tweeted the Game of Thrones like shame,
yeah.
shame, and yeah, they came out with a vengeance against Nova in the next game. So yeah, I'm going with UConn here. Not overthinking this.
Yep, not overthinking it as well. I got UConn. Moving on to the kind of subpar conference this season, um, the Big Ten. This has been an interesting season for the Big Ten. Who you got coming out?
It's been a lot of chalk, but I have to do it again because especially in the Big Ten tournament, the way I'm not trying to completely discredit this team, especially this player on all officials, but Big Ten officials have repped Zach Edey much differently than other officials have, and they repped him in a way where Purdue consistently wins the free throw battle, and that's something that doesn't happen in March. Hence their continued falling short in March. So I'm not going against Purdue, man. They're the best team in the conference. Illinois can do it, can give them a run for their money. They're actually playing as we speak, and Purdue is winning a close game here. But
I
yeah,
think that game actually just went final. Purdue won by
Yeah.
6, 77-71.
So
Yeah, I'm going a little different here, Tanner. I got Illinois, man. I might be because I just don't think Purdue is that good. I really don't think Zach Edey is good. Um, but it's definitely down to those two teams. But I got Illinois win the Big Ten. Moving on to the conference that plays zero defense whatsoever, the SEC. Tanner, who you got?
you know, this is to me. I mean, this is one of the best teams in the country, and frankly, I'm gonna say it, Sam. This is my early indication of who I think might win the whole damn thing, and that is Tennessee. This team is damn good at all levels. Um, I really love this Tennessee team. I think I mean the SEC. We talk about the Big East and the Big 12 a lot for best conferences. I think the SEC has continuously flown under the radar as one of the better conferences. Alabama started off the year a little rough, but now they're climbing their way into the top 15. Of course, Tennessee, the team we're talking about, Kentucky, is
As Alabama's getting beat
yeah.
by
Well, of course,
21.
Uh, but when you look at this Tennessee team, they have 6 losses on the year, and 3 of them came back to back to back to Purdue, Kansas, and North Carolina early on in the season.
Yeah.
Since then, the team has been absolutely red hot. Only losses at Ole Miss and at Texas A&M. I mean, there's one more in there. At Ole Miss, at South Carolina, or home versus South Carolina, and then at Texas A&M. 2 on the road, and I mean South Carolina is sneakily the second seed in the SEC right now. So that South
Yeah.
Carolina team can play as well. But again, this is one of those where I've loved what I've seen from this Tennessee team. They can really score the basketball. Next is one of the best scorers in college basketball. I love watching him play. Uh, Give me Tennessee. They're that damn good.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I got Tennessee as well. Uh, Dalton Connect, I don't know how you say his name, but he's an absolute dog. Excuse me. Um, Personally, I think he should be player of the year. He is absolutely dominating. I know who it's going to go to, which is BS, but Dalton has been the best player all season. This dude's absolutely ridiculous. And in the past, the team, it really comes down, can your best player get super hot I mean, yeah, you have those good teams, but you can get a very deep run if you just have a player. We saw with with Oral Roberts a couple years ago, Max Abesmith and Kevin O'Banner. We saw oh my gosh,
Really dig.
Fairleigh Dickinson. We got the guy that went to Wofford, Doug Eddert with St. Peter's. I mean it, and those are the stories we love. I think Tennessee's obviously different. They're a great freaking team. But yeah, I like Tennessee coming out of the SEC. But that kind of wraps it up for some college ball. We had the NFL Combine last week, Tanner. The NFL's kind of making noise in the off season. First story coming um, out of this NFL Combine is the stories surrounding, let's put it how it is, number one pick, Caleb Williams. He didn't row at the Combine. He declined medical exams. He did say they're going to give them to teams that they interview with. But, Tanner, do you think this kind of raises some concerns for teams? Should this even be allowed? What are your thoughts on that?
So to be completely honest with you, I don't think I don't have a problem with him not throwing because simply put, he has
Yeah.
nothing to gain. When you are the supposed number one pick, um, it's you just you don't have anything to gain from it. So why would you do it?
Yeah.
So I get it. The medicals it raises some questions because I mean that's just I mean it's different. I mean to me it's pretty clearly different than the throwing because like a performance based metric sometimes you just have an off day. It
Mm-hmm.
happens. Everybody in the world has had an off day when doing something physically. Your medicals are your medicals. Like it's not like you wake up one day it's like, oh, what an off day. I
Yeah.
had a bad knee. Like no, that doesn't happen. So that does raise some concerns to me. The throwing that doesn't bother me one bit. Medicals, yeah, that is a little concerning. But as you said, they said they will release them to teams that interview, which obviously Chicago will certainly be one of those. So yeah, I mean maybe it's just again a nothing to gain scenario, but still a little weird and concerning.
Yeah, definitely weird. It's going to be interesting because, let's be honest, it's going to come out at some point of why he didn't want that released the to the public. But we've seen countless stories of Caleb Williams since his time at USC ended. Um, just like a lot of off the field stuff, because everyone knows he can sling the ball. He's a good quarterback. No one's denying that. But do you think all this off the field stuff could affect his draft stock? Obviously, we're talking one to like a number two, number three. I mean, he's like, I'm not. He basically said, I'm not really thinking about anything else other than me going one, which I I think every player kind of has that mindset, but it comes off in a very arrogant way. To me, at least, I don't know about you, but kind of give me your thoughts on. Do you think this is affecting Caleb Williams and like where he might land in the?
To be honest with you, I think I guess the answer has to be no because I think he still gets drafted number one. So I don't think it's really affecting anything because it will still happen.
Yeah,
Uh, but does it affect like how I think he is as a prospect? I'd say so. I mean, um, the the one to me is do you remember the report about him asking for ownership?
partial.
I pray to God that is that's false. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually do that because I mean that would be an unbelievably what's that conceited I guess like unbelievable thing to ask that I cannot fathom.
Yeah.
So I really hope that's fake. But some of the stuff, on the field, obviously the talent has always been there. But the other thing that caused controversy was, the clip of him after a big loss when he went into the stands and showed emotion, started crying. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. However, um, if you remember last year, um, when TCU lost in the championship game, Max Duggan was crying after he played his last game at TCU, and our boy Caleb Williams quote tweeted the clip of him crying with just LOL,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes and does it himself. It's like that I have a little bit of a problem with, and so I think there are some things he has to learn about carrying himself, but all of that is a long way to say no. I don't think it affects his stock because I think he's still going number one.
Yeah. I think it's just part of his personality, honestly, and I think due to of on the field, I think people are willing to take the risk to deal with the off the field stuff. So no, I also agree. It probably won't. But we also had some news about some signings, some releasing. Kind of the first one, big one, was Mike Evans, and the Buccaneers agreed to a 2-year, $52 million contract with 35 being guaranteed. Is this a good keep for the Bucks? And kind of give me your overall thoughts on Mike Evans and where he kind of ranks among the best wide receivers.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a great deal for the Bucks, because judging off of their season this year, won the NFC South, won a playoff game over the Eagles. Um, for a team that all indications are that they plan to compete, yeah, you need to bring Mike Evans back.
Yeah.
He's your leading receiver, and continues to be one of the most underrated receivers in NFL history.
Yeah.
He has, I think we talked about it when he did it, but he has like the fourth most,
Mm-hmm.
1,000+ yard seasons.
Yeah.
How many straight it is? It's a lot.
Yeah.
Eight or 10.
It's insane.
It's
It's 10,
10,
I'm pretty sure.
yeah, 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Um, yeah, I mean, the dude is unbelievable. He is, without a doubt, a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Top 5, I mean, off the top of my head, I'd say probably no. He's probably in that 5 to 10 range.
Yeah.
But the dude can absolutely still play. 2 years, $52 million seems like a great team-friendly deal. I mean, it's high average annual value. I'm not sure what the cap hit is like, but for an additional 2 years, especially when a lot of your defense is aging, coming off the Tom Brady years, giving that flexibility to where in 2 years you can maybe hit that reset button, let him walk, let some of your defense walk, and then fully rebuild. I think it's a perfect deal for the Bucs. So A+ move all around.
Yeah. I know Baker Mayfield was a quarterback last year, did a tremendous job. Believe he is going to become a free agent if a new deal is not completed. Um, with that being said, having a elite wide receiver in Mike Evans already locked up for at least 2 years got to be intriguing to quarterback for sure. But yeah, he definitely a good keep. Definitely could get a free agent. You want free agent interest you probably wouldn't have without him. But probably the biggest news yesterday from the NFL world was Denver quarterback Russell Wilson is playing to get released once the official season starts, which is like sometime next week. The Denver Broncos are taking a $85 million hit in cap over the next 2 seasons. He is getting released before his extension hits that 5-year 242. But Taryn, is this shocking? I know Sean Payton and Russell Wilson kind of butted heads all last season. I know towards the end they wanted to basically bench him in order to convince him to restructure his contract. But what are your thoughts on this? Because personally, I don't think Russell Wilson's washed, man. I think he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He threw for 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, doing it with a bunch of nobodies, let's be honest, and completing 66% of his passes. So is it Sean Payton just being an ass? Is it his just mannerisms? Because we've all heard the stories of Russell Wilson just being a little weird. What's your overall thoughts on why this happened?
To the fact that Sean Payton is the biggest scumbag in the NFL. He is human garbage, and I think he deserves to be treated as such. Because you bring in Russell Wilson last year, you signed his big contract, and everything has been reported about you basically blackmailing him into not playing unless he restructures his deal.
Yeah.
It's complete BS and only the move of a scumbag like Sean Payton. And then even more so, after the decision was made, you can clearly see a shift in how Sean Payton treated Russell Wilson. And it is a pretty common thought that Sean Payton was trying to goad Russell Wilson into a reaction where, like, if he was tough on him and yelling at him, where Russell Wilson, like, fought back and yelled back, they'd have grounds for complete contract termination.
Yeah.
And they could be like, hey, he broke our team rules, so we are no longer bound by the contract. And shout out to Russell Wilson, because yes, like we all had our laughs at him when he was doing high knees on the and when he was Mr. Unlimited. Yes, was absolutely the bigger man, if you can even call Sean Payton a man, um, in this scenario, because he didn't fight back. He just basically accepted everything. No, knew he was getting screwed over, but didn't react in a way that hurt him. And now he's getting all of the money that he's guaranteed.
Uh-huh.
He's costing them $85 million cap hit, which is absolutely serious. As long as they employ human garbage as their head coach, I hope they never win another game in their history, or in their future, until that scumbag is fired. It's just shiesty practice after shiesty practice from Sean Payton. Did we not learn from Bountygate? I mean, the guy
Yeah.
literally employed a defensive coordinator, knew it was happening, that was putting bounties on players, and then he was forced into a uh, 1 year suspension, and then just came back like nothing happened, and there's been no further punishment. I don't know what other evidence you need. This dude is an absolute scumbag. Shout out Russell Wilson, man, because he was put through the ringer, but the bigger man prevailed, and the bigger man won in this feud, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, scumbag Sean Payton and the Broncos are paying right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's gonna become a free agent, Tanner. Where would be a good fit for Mr.
There you go.
Unlimited?
Um, to be honest with you, I think every team who's rumored to be in on Kirk Cousins, if they miss out on Kirk Cousins, should go after Russell Wilson. Because Russell Wilson at this current stage, he's not as good as Kirk Cousins. Well, I agree with you though. Russell Wilson played good ball last year, and people, because of the benching, because the Broncos
Mm-hmm.
sucked, they didn't. But remember, the Broncos also got really hot during that stretch. But yes, people because of that are not recognizing it. But he played damn good ball last year, and he still has some good years left in him. And this is with, like you said, a Broncos team that didn't have a running game at all. Um, their wide receivers, I mean, Cortland Sutton can play, but like we all know, Jerry Judy's been
Mm-hmm.
absolutely awful to start his career. So
Yeah.
like he was throwing to no one. He didn't have a running game. His offensive line was meh. His defense was nowhere near as good as it was a year ago. Like this was not a good football team, and he played good football, and they turned into a team that was fighting for the playoffs at the end, largely in part due to Russell Wilson. So yeah, he's got good years in him, and I mean, you know, I got to go to the Vikings as a Vikings fan. If Kirk leaves to go to Atlanta, someone you can get for cheap, you can bring in, be that be that veteran bridge quarterback. I mean, he's certainly not a long-term answer. I don't
Yeah.
expect them to go and win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. That's not going to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
he's someone who could keep them competitive while you usher in a new era, draft a guy, have him sit a year or two behind Russell Wilson, 1 or 2 year deal. I'm all for it as a Vikings fan. So I think, again, all the teams in on Kirk, those teams that are quarterback away, your Steelers, your Raiders, your Falcons, your Vikings, they should all be in on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly think anywhere would be a good fit for him. I mean, like I said, I think he was a good quarterback given his situation last year. Speaking of good fits, we have another guy looking for another team. Saquon Barkley is going to be a free agent after the Giants didn't franchise tag him probably after because you have to pay Danny Dimes $1 billion to be terrible. But Saquon Barkley, free agent. I'm gonna go with the same question I asked you about Russell Wilson. Where would be a good fit for him, man?
Yeah, so I have one team in mind. I think the fit is too perfect. This is a team that has plenty of cap space. They're a young team that is on quite possibly on the quickest rise in the league right now. They're a team that could use a big upgrade in the running game, and he's the answer. Give me Saquon Barkley to the Houston Texans.
That
This
would be
would be
insane.
awesome offense if you could add another level to this Texans offense and make it even easier on Stroud, who had an amazing year with very little from his running game. But you have two wide receivers who are young in Nico Collins and Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Probably going to release Robert Woods, so that money will go off the books. You have money to pay him. I think it's a fit. You have a surprisingly good offensive line. You just brought Dalton Schultz back, someone who's been successful in the run blocking game with the Cowboys for Zeke and Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Laramie Tunsil is one of the best left tackles in the game right now. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves. I think this has the making of being a really scary offense if they can get that extra dimension from Saquon Barkley in the running game. So I think Houston is a perfect fit.
Yeah, that would be something, adding Saquon to that already great offense. Just to be a little different, it's a team that's always has had a missing running back, kind of getting a veteran. Um, their running back is getting old, not very a super productive back. Throw them on the Chargers. I don't know if that would be even possible. I know their money situation's a little crazy, from what I understand, but I mean,
Yeah.
Saquon's a dog, still is. Um, Putting that with the wideouts and Justin Herbert, just having Justin Herbert not throw the ball 85 times a game.
Harbaugh uses running backs ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not. Yeah. But those are kind of the big things going on in the NFL. The NFL draft is right around the corner. But more importantly, March Madness is a couple weeks away. We talked about some ball, the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, but we have some questions to wrap up the episode. First question comes from Brandon Martelli. He said, "Hi. Yeah, so I asked last week why I have to carry Tanner in most games we play and never got answered. I was just hoping that you guys could get to it this week, please, and thank you again. Love Iowa. Caitlin Clark is the GOAT." So, reminder of his question, how can I keep needing to carry Tanner in every game we play? I get more kills than him in Fortnite. I'm usually winning the finale in Fall Guys. I'm just curious when Tanner's going to start pulling his weight. So, Tanner, let Brandon know, man.
I can't. It's just can't have it. When the boy is just yapping for no reason. I will give him the Fall Guys because he has done that. I won't accept the Fortnite slander. He always steals my kills. It's crazy. I always have so much damage, but he just swoops in, gets one bullet.
Classic.
Can't win. But the Fall Guys, that's absolutely valid, bro.
Yeah. Next question comes from your mom, Carrie Dislin. Thank you so much. She wants to know, did you learn anything unexpected from the NFL Combine?
Expected. I'm not sure if these qualify as unexpected, but I think there are some things worthy of talking about. That was a pun intended, by the way. They were worthy of talked about because Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver from Texas,
Insane.
ran the fastest 40 ever.
Insane.
And yeah, he absolutely flew. And that's kind of definitely a theme because there are two position classes where I'd argue three position classes where this draft seems incredibly deep, and that would be wide receiver with your top three being Marvin Harrison, Malik Nabers, and Rome Odunze. Those three would probably be top 10, if not Rome Odunze slightly after, because I think the other two were certainly top 10. And then obviously quarterback. This is a quarterback class that we've talked about for a while. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jane Daniels, that big three. And you have your kind of next tier of three in Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and J.J. McCarthy. And specifically at the Combine, I think the biggest winner of all of those quarterbacks would have to be Penix because, in the mocks in between, because right after the season ended, Michael Penix seemed to be a first-round draft pick, and then he was continually falling in a bunch of mocks while J.J. McCarthy was continually rising.
Mm-hmm.
But I think after the Combine, we are then reminded just how good of a prospect Penix is.
Yeah.
Because his measurables were off the charts. His arm length, his hand size, when he threw, pinpoint accuracy. We all know this of Michael Penix and what he did at Washington this year. And of course, I got to bring it back to my team. I honestly can't think of a more pro-ready fit for the Vikings and Michael Penix, a team that, I mean, you saw when they put Josh Dobbs in, they still want him to throw 40 times a
Yeah.
game. That's all Penix does. If he can just sit back there, sling that damn rock to wide receivers who are largely open. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson will get open. If he can just sit back, pinpoint accuracy, I think it's a perfect fit. Anyway, to get off the Vikings, because I can talk about that all day long. I think the two main winners that we need to talk about here are Xavier Worthy, who looks like he could be a possible steal at the end of the first round, early second round in that wide receiver class. And then the quarterbacks, where do they go? That second tier of three, seemingly fringe first, second round quarterbacks, where do they land? And the third position class that I talked about, I'd argue that the edge rushers in this class are incredibly deep with Laiatu Latu, I think that's how you pronounce his name,
Yeah.
UCLA, Jared Verse, Florida State, and who I think the best edge rusher in the entire class, Dallas Turner from Alabama. Like, those are three really talented pass rushers that will probably go in the first round. So I might argue all three of those positions are incredibly deep in this draft. But yeah, for me, it's the wide receivers and the quarterbacks. Where do they fall? And Michael Penix and Xavier Worthy were definitely the winners in my opinion.
Yeah. The combine is such a weird thing because if you're going based on the combine alone, Joe Milton might go 1-1. Did you see that ball, man? Absolutely ridiculous. To be honest, yeah, exactly. But to learn anything unexpected, I'd say no. There really wasn't anything too shocking other than 40 times are getting ridiculous. I think like lineman is running 4.5s now, which is insane. But it's gonna be an interesting draft, especially with that quarterback room. I think is gonna be the big talk as it has been all season.
Can I propose something for the combine? Can we make sure the athletes are fully clothed? Can we stop making like the underwear bowl?
Yeah.
Just wearing compression shorts.
Yeah, it's weird.
Make shorts. You can put shorts on top of that. That's
it's
fine.
Weird.
That's okay. Like,
yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, it's very. I'm okay with like the tank top, like this stuff, whatever. Just put shorts on.
Yeah.
We don't want to watch you. It's weird.
Very weird. Last question comes from my mom, Carol Gazzi. Thank you so much. She says it's kind of early, but who do you think will be the biggest upset in March Madness?
Yeah, right now, so Purdue's the low-hanging fruit, right? Because they always get upset. And I do think this is probably the best team they've had in a while. But precedent is that they will be upset. So I'm not going to take the low-hanging fruit. I do have one team right now that I think, for me, if I had to say who's going to get upset first, it would be this team that currently are at number 8 in the top 25. And that's Marquette. They seem to be falling fast, and a lot of it relies on the health of Tyler Kolek, who has been out for a few games in a row now. Even if he is back during March, I mean, I don't really have any lingering effects of the injury. And I mean, just Marquette to me has not been all that impressive of a team this year. They got absolutely boat raced against UConn, and they've been lackluster for me as a team so far this year. So I think if whoever draws Marquette in that first round, I think they might have a good chance at upsetting.
Yeah, I think you are spot on with the Purdue being the low-hanging fruit. I think you kind of mentioned it earlier. You don't get ref the same way in March, and that's kind of what I mean. We know the story with Zach Edey. But for me, I'm also gonna go a little different route, not going into the low hanging fruit. I actually got two teams here. One, which is wild because I picked them to win the Big 12. I could see Iowa State losing in the second round. Florida Atlantic is sitting at that 10 spot. That is a brutal draw. They were in and out of the top 25 all season, known for running and gunning. Preseason,
that is a tough
and completely opposite of how Iowa State plays. Slow it down, just grind it out, and Florida Atlantic's all run. That could cause some problem for the prolific Iowa State defense.
It's defense travels, and it's all you need is the one side defense travels, the other side all you need is one team to get hot.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good a defense you play. If UMBC doesn't miss, you're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. And another one I'm looking at is Duke here, Tanner. Duke is sitting at a 3 spot. I was looking for Iowa State, saw this matchup. They could be possibly taking on Indiana State with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is one of those sleeper teams that a lot of people are saying could make some noise in March Madness.
Is this Lenardi's?
This is Lenardi's. Lenardi does a good job. That's my guy. He tweeted at me once, so shout out Lenardi. But yeah, I'm gonna go with those two, Iowa State and Duke. Duke is known for kind of getting upset in March, so. But like you said, it's the Virginia paradox with Iowa State and possibly facing off against Florida Atlantic could be brutal.
Matchups are. I mean, specifically in basketball, matchups are the name of the game, and sometimes you just get a bad one.
Yeah.
That comes to mind that'll break all of our hearts, but Iowa drawing Oregon could not have been a worse match.
Yeah.
Not seeded team, again, the complete opposite way. Just, you're the 5 out, rarely played in the post, rain threes, get up and down the floor against an Iowa team whose best player was Luka Garza. Love to get it in the post. I'm going to say they played slow because they still had an efficient, highly ranked offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, the team liked to get it inside, and Garza a lot of the time was on the perimeter trying to guard. I think if I remember correctly, Iowa started in zone, and then Oregon just kept raining threes, so they had to switch to man. Had to put Garza out on the perimeter, and that did not go. So I mean, you got down early, and a team that efficient offensively and plays at that pace, you ain't come back. So
yeah,
matchups are everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But that will wrap it up for episode 122 of Crunch Time with the N326 duo. Talked about a lot. We talked about winners and losers, Caitlin Clark, NFL Combine. We talked about it all. You can follow the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and X at crunchtime_pod. Also, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel, Crunch Time with the N326 duo. The clock has run out on this one, but we'll see you on the next one.